Thank you very much. It's another item that I believe that as a progressive county that we are, we should undertake and lead on, even though others have already led the way. We spoke earlier this morning about the enslavement of Africans. Juneteenth commemorates the liberation of Africans. In January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. But it wasn't until 2 years later that it reached, actually, it was much more than 2 years later. It was 1865, June 19th, that the Union troops delivered the message to those enslaved Africans in Texas that they were free. Texas actually started the celebration in 1866, marking Juneteenth as a day of celebration. We've done that here in Broward County on a small scale. Many other communities across the nation, New York, the state of New York, Virginia, New Jersey, New York City, Massachusetts, Portland, Miami-Dade County, Tamarack, and Pembroke Pines. Apple, Twitter, and the NFL are now commemorating and celebrating the liberation of these enslaved African people on Juneteenth. I think it's a gesture that would go a far way to helping to heal these deep wounds that still exist in our society. For us to add Broward County as one of those who recognize the liberation and celebrate that. I know in the state of Florida.
And Commissioner Holness, this is just a motion to direct, correct?
Right. It is a motion to direct.
Okay.
I know the state of Florida had legislation that came up, but it never got to the floor. There will be an attempt to do it again in the next legislative session. So this would allow for our county attorney to draft a resolution to enact Juneteenth as a paid holiday for Broward County.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, I'll get you, Commissioner Ryan, one moment. I received a press inquiry today from Lisa Hurriash at the Sun Sentinel. I will just read it if you can respond. If the county passes Juneteenth today, and obviously this just motion to direct, are county services closed, like the library or offices, tax collector, etc.? I'm asking because I'd like to include this in my story. Thank you. Can you respond, sir, please?
It would be like any other paid holiday that the county has that we now celebrate.
So the library and offices would be closed. Tax collector. Okay, Ms. Hurriash, I hope you're listening. That is the answer to your question. Tim Ryan. I'm sorry? Okay. Okay. Commissioner Ryan, you're recognized, sir.
I have no objection to recognition of Juneteenth as a holiday, but when we had our last budget workshop, there was discussion about how there's going to need to be a great deal of shared sacrifice next year to make our budget needs to serve the taxpayers and the residents of Broward County. If indeed we make a paid holiday on this day, I'm going to ask, and this will either I'll run as a separate amendment, or if the sponsor wants to put it in his proposal, that this be revenue neutral. I can't ask taxpayers to pay more and more when they're suffering through all of these difficulties in their businesses and in their personal lives, and then have another paid holiday. I think that we have to find some way that we have everybody work, I think, with their best effort. We have good benefits. I'm very, very proud of the 6,000 employees in Broward County. Many of us fight every year to make sure that their health insurance and other benefits are protected. But at some point, we have to balance that with the difficulties that our taxpayers are suffering here in Broward County.
Commissioner Ryan, when you say revenue neutral, would I assume then that that would mean either eliminating one of the two personal holidays or eliminating one of the other holidays?
It'd probably have to eliminate one of the other holidays because you have a certain amount of work to be performed, and I leave that to the county administrator. We really do. By charter, she has a great deal of authority in this area. So understanding what my concerns are, whether they're shared with by other members or not, I just have a concern about what this means for our residents to offer an additional paid holiday to employees.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Are there any additional questions or debate? Commissioner Furr, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to take this off. This isn't a very important date, but I don't think most people know what it is. Very few people do. I
do.
I know Hollywood's actually been celebrating this for about 15 years. It's probably the only city around that's been doing it. I know as a teacher of American history, I never found it in a book. You never found it in books. Likewise, the whole thing with Tulsa, all those things, those aren't in books. I would, before we go to this level, and I couldn't get to that level, I honestly think there's a huge need for an awareness campaign through our libraries, through our schools, through numerous ways to get that out. Because you don't want to be doing a holiday that nobody knows what it is. You don't want to be celebrating a holiday where nobody knows what the holiday is. You want to kind of, I think this is a chance to kind of build some momentum, build some awareness. And one of the ways I would suggest doing it is buying a lot of materials at our library, particularly ebooks that kids have access to, social studies teachers can have access to. They can get classroom sets and start to build. Because I can guarantee you, most kids have no idea what it is. When we, I actually know most African Americans didn't know what it was until just last year, a couple years. It was not real well known. It's from my experience.
Mayor, from your perspective.
It was well. I mean, it is not one that has been covered in our history books
Shame.
at all.
It's a shame.
And it should be. And we should be asking our school board and, like I said, our libraries to be introducing these materials so that people have access to it and so that they do know what it is. I think that makes some sense to me. And then build up an awareness campaign that we can then I think it's a good time to support it. Otherwise, people are going to be going, what is this? I have no idea what it is.
Commissioner Furr, let me ask you a question. You said Hollywood was recognizing this. Was
Right.
that as a paid holiday?
No, there's been celebration of this in two different communities, back and forth. They've been going
And is
back.
that your recommendation, that we celebrate it before paid holiday?
I think that's actually a good idea. I think that's a good idea. Because that way, people know what it is, and I do know that the communities, the one I live in, is much more aware of it now than they were. Because of those celebrations. They've had a chance to bring materials, bring people in the community together, numerous poetry slams, all these kind of things that people kind of get an idea what it is. When it came up, and for many people heard it this year for the first time, after George Floyd, because they kind of was, and that's where a lot of people kind of saw the interconnection there. So I think celebrating it is a good first step.
I understood. Okay, thank you, sir. I have next Dr. Sharif and then Commissioner Bogan. Of course, Commissioner Holness will close, and then after Commissioner Bogan, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Sharif, Dr. Sharif, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you. So I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Furr, but half the kids out there that get off for the Jewish holidays have no clue what they are. And if we are celebrating something and giving time off based on knowing what it is, then I think 85% of the children in Broward County should be in school when we're celebrating Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So I understand what you're saying, but those holidays were granted because there was a large amount of people that wanted to celebrate them, even though not everybody knew what they were. This is much the same, in my opinion. I don't know, in the African-American community, I think this is well known, it's just not in a book. You see, it's much like a lot of African-American history, where it's been left out of textbooks and out of teachings and classes. Just like slavery has been minimized in a lot of the textbooks, and just like oppression in the Jewish religion had been minimized in a lot of the textbooks. This is much the same. Juneteenth is something that I think if you were born and raised down in the South like I was, you understand what this holiday is. You understand what this is celebrating, because my ancestors were slaves. And so I would say that, I don't necessarily know if giving the time off has to come after people learn how to celebrate it. I think by nature of the fact that you grant it, and then people start to know what it is when they get the day off, that's how you're going to understand what happened in the history. And then maybe then will it come into fruition in terms of being in textbooks. So I really didn't, the only thing I can see is budgetary issues, why this would be something that we would be discussing as far as consideration, because of the fact that we knew that we were coming up on a shortfall year. But other than that, I think that it needs to be given probably much the same consideration as any other holiday that we're taking off and closing Broward County down, because it is such an important event in African-American history. And I think that doing this would bring a special kind of awareness to it and move it along. So I would ask that, if you all, I know this is the discussion item, but when the next item come back, I'm sure you're going to attach a budget impact or fiscal summary to it. And then at that time, we can have a further discussion. But I think that it's something that I think is long overdue.
Okay, Dr. Sharif, respectfully, when you brought up the religion question, neither Rosh Hashanah nor Yom Kippur, where I spend both days in temple, and Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, are holidays for the county. So when you are comparing them, and I understand, but when you were comparing them to this issue, and I don't believe the schools are closed on Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, they are.
I know they're closed on Yom Kippur. Are they closed on Rosh Hashanah also?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the schools maybe, but again, I don't think it's an appropriate comparison because when you're talking about comparing it to Broward County closing, which we don't close, we use personal days if Jews in Broward County want to take off for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Additionally, your statement that 85% of Jewish children don't know what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is, which
85% of the children in Broward County.
Okay, if that's the case, ma'am, I apologize to you for what I thought you said.
And what I'm saying, Mayor Geller, is that the children didn't know what that was before it was done, much like some adults. It is not to incite or get upset about. I'm just saying it's a learning curve.
Dr.
To
Sharif,
respect
again, I
everybody.
apologize. I thought you were saying 75% of the Jewish children that were taken off didn't know.
If they
And-
don't, their
and
parents
I-
are in trouble.
It's exactly the case, and I apologize.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
but-
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Do you wish to be recognized, Senator?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Yes,
can
do.
I add you to the list after?
Yes.
Okay, so
Just to
we
follow
now
up to what you
have
said.
Commissioner Bogan, Commissioner Fisher, and Senator Rich. Commissioner Bogan, you recognize, sir.
Yeah, hi. So I'm a big student of history, and my question goes to Commissioner Holness and anybody else that wants to answer this question. So on June 19th, 1865, announcement by Union Army General Gordon Granger proclaiming freedom from slavery in Texas, right? But on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, as you mentioned, for all people to be held as slaves within all the states. What I don't understand is why wouldn't we want to celebrate a Emancipation Proclamation for all people of all the states versus a Union generals announcing it in Texas? I don't understand that. I think it should be celebrated, no matter what. Totally agreement with you. But I don't understand why you wouldn't want to celebrate where a president is signing one of the most important proclamations in our history.
So
And-
let me
Hold
answer,
on.
since
Wait,
you
wait. Were
direct
you
the
done,
question to
sir?
me.
You know, I'm asking
wait,
him a
wait.
question.
Okay.
Because he's a sponsor of
Had
this.
you finished your question, sir?
Yeah, I finished my
Okay, to
question.
respond to that question, Commissioner Holness.
Yes, first, when the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, it wasn't to free all the slaves in the United States. It was to free those who were held in the
Rebellious states.
Correct. So that's one correction there. The second part of it is this, that the celebration came about when everyone got their knew they were free. So it was signed on the first, and then folks said, well, God, I've been living under this for more than 2 years, and I didn't know it was free. That's the jubilation that came about.
I see the realization.
Exactly. So the
Gotcha.
jubilation of it is what we're celebrating, that, hey, now everybody is, it's
I got
not,
you.
because that sign-in didn't reach everyone.
I got you.
And it was not just Texas that was late in that, getting that information, it was other states also that were still held by the
Besides,
rebels.
the Civil War was still going on in
Correct.
1863 for 2 more years.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher, well, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bogan, are you done?
I am, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and listening to the discussion has been very healthy for me to ultimately get to where we want to be, and I understand Commissioner for the education component, and I understand Commissioner Sharif's comments too, begin with the celebration. The concern I have is what Commissioner Ryan talked about, is just the financial commitment to it at this particular time that we're dealing with, and Ms. Henry, obviously, the report we received from Mr. Foster, it looks to be about $1.3 million, I guess, would it cost the county about $1.3 million to have the paid day off?
So,
County Administrator?
yes. So there were two numbers in the analysis. The number of $1.3 million, I believe that was the number, was the value of a day. The other number that was provided was $130,000. That's the actual cash out the door, because we have 24/7 operations that will have to continue. So our buses, our airport, our seaport. So the functions that have to go on for county government, where that's a premium over time. So the value of that is the $130,000. So the value of a day
What
is
does
a
it cost
$1
the
million.
county, Ms. Henry? What would it cost the county in general funds? Or is it $600,000 is what it would cost us, or?
So the general fund is about the value of that is about half.
So that's what it would cost us if we declared it a holiday and paid holiday.
Plus the 130?
Plus the 130, which is $730,000? Is that what it would be?
So that 130 is the value of everybody. That's the enterprise funds, general fund, all of it. So it's more than just the general fund.
So I'm just, obviously, the dollars is what I'm concerned with. I'm all for the celebration, all for ultimately getting to where we be, and maybe we look at in 20, in other words, celebrate this coming year, and in 2022, we have it as a paid holiday, just something to think about as a deferral to see where we're going to be at this fiscal coming year with the COVID, which you have been preaching to us, that we are obviously going to be severely hit at the end of the day. So but I'm ultimately there. I want to get there. How do we get there to make it fiscal responsible for us? Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Senator Rich, you're recognized, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on part of what you had said, Mr. Mayor, about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Because, first of all, these are religious holidays. They are some of the holiest days of the year for Jewish people. And unfortunately, I think the words were Jewish children didn't know. Several people have already texted me about it. So, and Jewish children do know. And hopefully, maybe lots of other people in our community know because of the numbers of Jewish people who live in our community. The fact that we have paid attention to Holocaust education, which is not just for Jewish children. So it's a little disturbing because this is a holiday that thankfully the schools have opted to respect, that this is a special holy day. These are special holy days for people of the Jewish religion. So I just don't want to compare religious holidays with what we're talking about now. And I certainly understand and would consider support and would support, celebrating this. I do have issues because for Jewish holidays, the county is not shut down. There is not a question of it being a fiscal impact that way. So these are two different things. But the point being for me that I don't think that we should compare or take Jewish holidays or any religious holidays to be discussed in light of this kind of a celebration. It's a different type of a celebration. So just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. Dr. Sharif, you had touched a nerve with some of us, and those of us that know you well know that you would never say anything intentional like that. So my recommendation is
I did not have the word Jewish in my vocabulary when I said that sentence. So I think you all need to listen. I said 85% of the children in Broward Public Schools did not know what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur was before they got it off. And it wasn't really well advertised, but they understand now that they have the day off, what it is. And I'm not making a comparison of equality in one or the other, but some people do celebrate Juneteenth like you celebrate those two. So, I mean, I don't see where the big offense came from, but I didn't say that.
Well, let's let this issue drop, because those of us that have known you for a long time know what your views are, and let's just leave it at that.
I know, I don't want to let it drop and let somebody be out there thinking that I said that. I did not say that. And I would like for the record to show, I did not say that.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Udine.
Thank you. I didn't hear you say that either, so I just thought you said the children of Broward County. So, but that's neither here nor there. In my opinion, and I'm not going to comment more on it, but when you do, just more as a point of information, when you bring us back the fiscal impact on this, Mayor Geller brought something up when he read the reporter's question that he had for the sponsor. I think we need to do the educational part and get to the point where it could be a holiday, but when we start closing all of the different county services is when the dollars really start adding up, because then it becomes time and a half for people that are still there. So when you bring back the fiscal impact, could you bring it back in a way where there was maybe a floating holiday that could be used on Juneteenth, but that was not a closure of everything in the county, that then could be rotated through? So this way, if somebody didn't want to use it on that day, and they felt like they wanted to use it on Rosh Hashanah, which is not a closed holiday, they could use it there. And then I don't think there's any fiscal impact to the county, because everything is still open, and the people that want to use it can use it. Personally, that's what I do a lot of time in my own personal office. I'm Jewish. I don't go to the office on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but the people that aren't Jewish, they do go, and then we kind of like back and forth for them. If they have a holiday that's important to them, they go and we go from there. I know with a county of 6,000 employees, it's more difficult, but when we talk about shutting everything down, especially in the middle of the summertime when kids need our parks and kids need our libraries and whatnot, I think there could be a way to get there and make that happen.
Commissioner Furr, you're recognized.
Thank you. When we're doing this, the question I ask myself is, what are we trying to accomplish? And the main thing we're trying to accomplish is to make sure an awareness of it. I have a hard time with closing the libraries on the one day where you actually could open, where you can make it a big deal. Schools aren't in session during this day. Schools are out. The summer has started, summer break. Where a lot of those kids go is where? They go to the library. They go to all of our camps. They go to everything the Children's Services Council. That would be the time to have it all open and say, here's what today is. That's a good time to actually let our institutions make that kind of thing aware and let everybody know what's going on. I think that's a much better opportunity to let everybody know what this is. Because we have all the summer breaks and where all the kids go to eat at the libraries now and that's a great opportunity to have all those kids on that day find out what that is. And prior to that, make sure that we have all the materials ready to go in those libraries so that there's books available, there's all those kind of things. And all of a sudden, you start to get a much better appreciation for what it is. If I was going to be going, I'd start off that way.
Is there any additional debate prior to my calling on Commissioner Holness to close? In that case, County Attorney, I believe that your motion to direct will tell you to have a paid holiday closing county offices without closing county offices or having any impact, and to have an educational campaign instead of closing while still closing. So I wish you a lot of luck in drafting this motion to direct based upon the sentiments expressed here today. Commissioner Holness, you are recognized to close, sir.
Thank you. For all 45 years of my life here, living here, I've celebrated Juneteenth. So if some of you are not aware of it, it's because you didn't pay attention. And I understand, we don't pay attention to a lot of stuff, all of us. I actually have led a celebration here since 2016 for Juneteenth at the African American Research Library. Some have attended that. Now, do we educate before we celebrate? We got a lot of other holidays that the library's closed. Why not? Do some education around that so that the kids can go to the library and learn about those holidays. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. Doesn't. Not one bit. From at least 1619 until 1861, enslaved Africans labored and toiled to build this country. Whips on their backs, chains on their necks and their legs. How much trillions of dollars did that contribute to the building of this country? How much? Probably without calculations. You can't calculate that. Plus the lives they lost, the suffering and the brutality that was brought to bear on them. And we're talking about a couple of dollars here? I looked at the report that came from the budget office. It says that for this year, it's already budgeted. Because we're paying folks that day anyway. It's going to cost $130,000 measly dollars. spread over different budget areas. And we can't do that? On a $5.4 billion budget? We can't find $130,000? We find it for a lot of other stuff. And we're having this debate. In the light of all the things that have happened in this past year, $130,000 going to stop us from doing what's right? From healing this wound that's so deep? Come on, guys, we can do better than that. A motion that we approve this.
This is, motion is approved unless there are 6 votes against. County Attorney.
Mayor, actually, that's for ordinances. This requires 5 affirmative votes.
I'm sorry, okay. I thought a motion to direct was automatically approved unless there was a majority in opposition.
It's for ordinances pursuant to rule. It's 6 in opposition, but this is a administrative code.
I understand.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
motion
All right,
approved.
the motion has made, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Well, you are directed to draft something. I wish you well. Thank you.